Can you all hear me out there? Alright, we're going to start here in a couple of minutes. We're going to round up. Or if y'all can take your seats. Welcome, guys. We're still some people coming in. Well, we're going to get started here. My name is Christopher Carmona. I am the chair of the Committee for Noxtejas. Noxtejas. It's the National Association of Chicana and Chicano Studies, Tejas Poco. And I'm the chair of the Committee for Implementing Mixed American Studies in Pre-K through 12 education. Welcome everybody to our event here. This is pretty historic that we have all this going on today. Before we get started here, we're going to have Lisa Ramos come up and do the welcome here for San Antonio College. Lisa is the assistant professor here at San Antonio College of History and Mexican American Studies. So let's welcome Dr. Lisa Ramos to the stage.
Good morning. Welcome to San Antonio, Texas, to San Antonio College, and to the Summit on Implementing MAS in Texas Schools. I'm speaking on behalf of SAC's president, Dr. Robert Vela. We want to welcome each and every one of you, whether you travel from around the corner or from hundreds of miles away. We're proud to have all of you here at SAC. From our president to our adjunct instructors, we at SAC are committed to Mexican American studies. We've been meeting and discussing the best strategies for implementing Mexican American studies, or MAS, here. Just last month, the Alamo College's Board of Trustees formally approved the Mexican American Studies field of study here at SAC. We follow in the footsteps of our fellow members of the Alamo Colleges. Palo Alto College, are you here? Northwest Vista College, Northwest Vista? And St. Philip's College. So therefore it seems apropos that SAC is hosting this historic summit. The main message I want to convey is, as we listen to each other and break up into smaller breakout sessions, we remember to listen to each other. We can work out those disagreements. And the reason I say this is I really believe we need to stick together because we have bigger opponents right now. I don't think I need to name any names, but some of those opponents. You may have read that MAS supporters have been described, and this is a quote, as a group seeking special treatment and just a bunch of, quote, unhappy people. You can boo, yeah, boo. Yes, you said it. The person who made these comments, he got one thing right though. We are unhappy. But what we're doing here today is we're working out ways to make ourselves happy, to make our children happy and our posterity. And I also think what we're doing here today is honoring all those dearly departed on whose shoulders we stand on today. But this is not, just about us. I think this summit is also for everyone who lives in Texas and the United States and who cares about historical and cultural accuracy and shaping a future where no group is systematically excluded. So again, on behalf of Dr. Vela and on behalf of the San Antonio College family, welcome to San Antonio, welcome to SAC, and welcome to the Summit on Implementing Mexican American Studies in Texas Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos. Let's give everyone a round of applause. So this is by far the biggest summit we've had on this. We've had a couple in the Valley, but this is the first that has been implemented on this kind of scale. I think that the fact that it's today, June 18th, is important because even though we planned this back in February, we did not know that this was going to land on the weekend that Trump went through, on the weekend of the Democratic Convention, and everything that's been happening in the past few weeks because, of the expo. All that came way after, but we're going to claim credit that we did this for that. We knew what we're doing here. But this is something that we've been trying to do for the past few years. When we started working in the Rio Grande Valley with Ruby Cortez and others to try to build and try to put Mexican American studies into the classrooms and in public schools, in Texas public schools. And so since 2014, when the first initiative was really launched for making this happen, we have built this coalition. And this is the first, we started out of the Knox State House Conference. And this past February, which was out there in Houston, but this has been a collaboration with a lot of people's work. And so I just wanted to talk about a lot of different work that we're doing here, but first of all, to really look at what we're doing. Right now, currently, according to the Texas, the TEA, Texas Education Agency, Latino students comprise 52% of the student population in the state. And in 20 years, they're projecting that the Latino population will encompass 60%. And currently, we don't have a curriculum that reflects that makeup. And that is one of the major things that this summit we're trying to do and to change, is to have a curriculum that is culturally appropriate to the student body. We're not asking for anything, I would say anything extravagant. We're just asking that we reflect the student body that we have in the state of Texas. And so far, we've been able to implement courses through in certain schools, mostly through dual enrollments for Mexican American Studies. Right now, this year we've had, that I know of, this is one of the reasons for this conference, Mission ISD implemented it for the first one 2 years ago. Now we have Down ISD, these are dual enrollment courses. Also, we have San Antonio with dealing with follow-up college has a new dual enrollment course, and Houston as well. But we have, Mexican American Studies has been something that has been in Texas for a while. We've got a teacher here, Mom, that has been teaching the Mexican American Studies course for several years now. 10 years he's been teaching the service? 13 years he's been teaching at Johnny Community High School in Denver, Texas. Yeah. So let's give him a round of applause. And Laredo, see, in Pasadena, that's the one out of Pasadena. So we have a lot of schools we're trying to coordinate. That's one of the major goals of this summit, right? Is to find out how we can put all of this together and we can start working together to building a much programs across the state. And we can pull our efforts and our resources. So when I'm going to go through this event was put together by a lot of different people. This event was sponsored by several people. When we go through the list here. First, so when I'm going to read through the list of these sponsors, I want you to go ahead and stand up and be recognized for this. So, first I want to recognize Somos Mas for doing a lot of work for you. You guys from Somos Mas, we want to stand up here and we're going to give them congratulations for a lot of work. The Palo Alto College Center for Mexican American Studies. Mexican American Studies at UTSA. And for the Mexican American Studies program at UCRGV, the UCR Program Valley. And some others. We also have the Center for Mexican American Studies and Research at Our Lady of the Lake University. Mexican American Studies here at San Antonio College. Northwest Vista College. The Agricultural Environmental Studies at UTSA. Mas Unidos. Para vice-presidente y representante de nuestra palabra. Gina Trevino, Mario Intellect, as well as my fiance's with the Love Spec Bakery. I'll provide some food here. And Gina's Party Ice, and without ice, there's no Dr. Esforza Negrete and Josie Mendez Negrete. Sister Cortez and Fernando Cortez. And Dr. Anaya. And Frida Gonzalez from South Texas College. Of course, Mark Tejeda and Luis. Marisa Perez, the Texas State Board of Education. Yolanda Saldaña, where are you, Jose Izanga, and Maggie. We also have Maria R. Smith, CPA. Nicole Villalobos. And Eli Piran, who's doing the video production for this today. And special thanks for Margarita Gomez, Senior Administrative Associate for BPL. And Dinora Gonzalez, the project facilitator from Project Office Streetside. And of course, Deborah Coach is the McAllister Office Story Manager, letting us use this space and help things out. So, Sumal. So, now I'm going to go ahead and call up Ruben Cortez.
State rep, Alonso here.
Oh, Alonso, we have another state rep.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So Ruben Cortez is the Texas State Board of Education member along with Lisa Pettis. Ruben was led the charge back in 2014 for trying to bring Mexican American Studies standalone course to Texas. And he's also instrumental in investigating a lot of the proclamation for the creation of Texas that we are all discussing here today, or we're going to be discussing today. But I want to invite them up to go ahead and talk about what they're doing here. So let's have a round of applause for Ruben.
Good morning, you all. Thank you so much for having us here today. I'll let Ruben speak in just a little bit. We love to hear from Ruben. He's an amazing orator. But I wanted to begin by just letting you know, as representatives of the State Board of Education, we recognize that we're up against some really tough individuals, as colleagues on our board. But, you know, we recognize the importance of Mexican American Studies, in particular with our young students, with our young kids, because growing up in Texas, you know, second, third generation, we have stories that we have shared. We have grandmothers and grandfathers who can relay those messages to us. But Mexican American Studies is so important for those generations that have been here for years and years and years. Our fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth generation families. So many times, our students are learning their history through textbooks. And so you know that we have a huge fight against a huge fight that we're waging right now with this Mexican American Heritage book that we're going to be reviewing. We need to make sure that whatever instructional materials we have in the classroom for our students are factually based, because so many times our students are dependent on this for self-identity. And we all know, I mean, there's tons of research to support culturally relevant thinking, culturally relevant teaching. I'm a huge fan, and I'm inspired by individuals like Gloria Ladson Billings, by Paulo Freire, Pedagogy Oppressed. If you haven't read it, it is an amazing book. These scholars are amazing individuals who recognize that so many people are disenfranchised, and it's not appropriate. We have made a huge contribution to this country and our kids across Texas, not just our Latino students, but everybody, the more than 5 million students in our Texas classrooms need to know what our history is, And so I want you to know that as State Board of Education members, we will be fighting to deny this book. We will fight till we are red in the face. We do not need materials that express such derogatory statements in them, because we know and recognize that this is important for our students' development and for Texas and for our nation. I want to close by saying that this is especially important for me because my grandmother, she picketed right alongside of Anita, and she has so many stories to share with me, and I value those so much, and those are stories that need to continue because our students need to understand that their families, that their culture has contributed so much to this country. And again, I have a great partner in Ruben Cortez. He's an amazing leader on this board, and he will fight right alongside with me and the others I have on board. And we just understand that what we're up against is an intentional changing of our history, and we want to make sure that people know that we recognize it and that we're not going to stand for it. So thank you so much for having us here this morning, and please let us know what we can do to support you past this argument, past this fight that we have here, because we want to be those resources for you, and we're available, and we send it directly. So thank you so much.
Representative from Dallas, Texas, but originally from Crystal City. So we pass by here all the time. In fact, I'm going to go to Crystal City today for my wife's Father's Day. But I thank you for the opportunity for a second just to say I'm happy you're getting together. As some of you know, or practically all of you know, in 2003 I passed a law statewide that every junior college must have a Mexican dispensary. Because I grew up in the Chicano movement. One of the demands was Chicano studies. And we talked about it, and our centers around prior to that, Austin, and Houston, and I set up a Center for Mexican Studies in Detroit as well. And I said, why not ask? Why not do it? And it got done, so it's a big deal. But I'll finish with this thought. First of all, on the state board, whatever we can do to help in our part of the world, God will see. The other thing I was thinking about when we were visiting regarding the board is, I'm a state rep, and I tell people I'm not a state rep because I'm handsome. I'm 59, and I don't look 59. It's because of the voting rights, and maybe one of the things we should explore is doing a lawsuit on the State Board of Education regarding voting rights. Because I know, as I said, not handsome, it's the way you decide the district, so that's a possibility. Again, I salute you, I congratulate you. As you say about the kids, that's true. We don't tell our kids they're not going to know. But the importance that the studies do is you see it in paper, you see it in print, and people pay more attention and give more credibility when they can touch it. Muchas gracias, que lo bendiga.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. I had the opportunity to join you a couple years ago in Houston at Lone Star Community College. What's going on in Texas right now, from when this conversation began to where we are today, it seems like this snowball effect. It's just this movement that just continues to gain momentum. Like the first speaker came up when she spoke on behalf of the president and talked about this special book nobody was happy with. I remember when this entire fight began, and Marisa and I and the other Democrats on the board took on this issue to try to get Mexican American Studies to be an actual course taught right? And some of the members on our board couldn't stomach it. And so we kind of had to broker a deal, right? One of them said, look, I can support a book. And without thinking, I said, look, if I know we're not gonna get a class, I know I have, right? I know I need certain people. And this, when I heard that one man say, I'll support a book, I said, okay, just from what I've seen historically, who votes for this individual, if all the Democrats are on board, and that guy can sway a few other people, then let's get a book at least. And let's start somewhere. And as excited and proud as we were in that moment, here we are today, talking about this very book that we fought so hard to get. And this is the worst textbook that I've ever encountered in my life.
It's not even a textbook.
There is no way, in any form or fashion, that we can accept this book. This book needs to be. For those of you that don't know, I guess some of the history of the company that submitted for the book, the deadline to submit instructional materials, the deadline was December 11th. The company that supposedly was created to submit this instructional material was supposedly created on November 28th, 29th, just ahead of the deadline. And so one of the publications printed it, I don't know if it was the Tribune or the Huffington Post. And when I spoke with the guy from the Huffington Post, Robert Blanas, he tells me, Ruben, I Google Earth search the address in Virginia of the publishing company. He says, it's a farmhouse. He says, they don't even have an office. And you know, there's many more problems. I mean, you've got the lady who's proposing it, Cynthia Dunbar. She couldn't even get confirmed by the Texas Senate, which is consisted of majority Republicans. So the Republicans didn't want to confirm this lady to be the chairman of the State Board of Education during her time on the board. And this is a woman who's in front of this company that's proposing this book that is just marred with hatred and racism and so many factual, inaccurate statements. I had an opportunity to visit with some of the groups that I reached out to create an ad hoc committee so that we can kind of discuss some of this. And Emilio pulled out a big stack, I went maybe 30 sheets, page 1, page 2, page 3, and just problem after problem after problem. I didn't even have an opportunity to go through the entirety. It was just nauseating that this can be presented to our students. What I want to just share with you guys, in addition to, I don't want to get into the factual inaccuracies. I know you guys know better than we do. You guys are the experts. We'd like to see this in every Texas public high school. There is no doubt about that. We love that. We love the day when they can get to learn a little bit about their culture. I didn't have that opportunity when I was in school. And it was Chris Carmona was telling me yesterday, he says, one of my students, he says, at the Brownsville Early College High School, where they come in and we offer this class, says, I can talk to my grandparents now because I understand what they went through. And I too lived through something very similar. When I was initially running for this board, it was just off of that 2010 debacle of the State Board of Education when they were trying to delete the Lotus Huerta and make all kinds of changes to textbooks. I was in the middle of just preparing to run for this office. And I'm visiting with a reporter by phone, telling them about all those stories. And my mom's there at the house and we're stuffing envelopes to send out for donations and all this sort of stuff, right? Getting signs ready, putting the little metal rods in them so that we can go and put them outside homes. Just laying the groundwork, right? Out of our home and in our living room, family helping me. And as I get off the phone, I look over, my mother's sitting on the sofa with her head down, and I said, are you okay? And she looks up and she's crying. And she says, you don't know what it does for me to hear you want to fight for these things. I said, why? She said, because your father and I, my parents divorced many years ago. She said, because your father and I, when we were newly married, We had a pretty difficult life, and we were migrant workers, and we had to go to California, and we had to go and pick strawberries, okra, and cotton, and all these things in the 70s. And your father was this real crazy guy, went out and supported these organizations, and, part of the Chicano movement, and all these other things, and she was telling me all these stories, and she says, and one day your dad says, he says, yeah, this is my mom retelling the story. There's this man who's gonna have a rally and he's helping farmers. And she says, your D and I, we drove to Fresno, California. And she says, and we marched with this man. And she says, and I've been looking for the paper. She says, we came out of the front paper with this man. And I said, what? She said, his name was Cesar Chavez. And she says, and it's because of me walking with that man and understanding that there's people out there that can make a difference in our lives, that she didn't let that define who she became, right? She came back. My parents divorced. She went to night school, graduated in her late 40s from college, served as a local school board trustee, and is now in her 4th term as the Justice of the Peace. And she attributes that time and that motivation and inspiration that she got from having walked with Cesar Chavez. And I think, based on what Chris told me yesterday, how many other kids can we motivate like that if they find and they see the people who went through the struggles that they feel that they're going through today, they can see themselves in the struggles that somebody else went through. And we inspire more kids to become school board members or justices of the peace like my mother. Can we inspire stories like what you just heard from Marisa, and now she serves on the highest education board in Texas, on the State Board of Education. We represent regions that elect us. But despite that, we represent every one of the over 5 million children in the state. And we want the best for them. You have a great group of leaders out here that, as we, and as you all hear, because we fought hard for this book, and now we're going to fight to reject it. I will say, and it's comical as it sounds, it's sad, a true story. But let me tell you that, and Marisa knows this, some of you guys have already put together information. If your schools want to offer it, some of these professors, out of the kindness of their heart, have put together a roadmap, entire curriculum, day by day, what you're going to teach in the classroom. And they're going to give it to you for free. And that's the message that we need to give the media. We're telling them this book, we need to burn it. We need to get rid of it. It's not going to be shown to our children. It's not going to be shown to my children. It's not going to be shown to her newborn daughter. We don't want that book. But what you guys are already doing, that's the information that we need to spread. You guys are the experts. They're out there. They're sitting here. They're standing in the back of the stage. You guys can give us what we need so that we can go and let folks know, look, while this may sound badly, these professors have done something remarkable, and this is what we should do. And so they're going to talk to you guys about the clearinghouse and the website where they have this information. I think it's important that as you guys go out and comment, we need to cover specific areas of Texas in the media. There's certain areas that we need to target because those are the votes that we need to try to influence. Trini, Juan, Emilio, Tony, and Chris, and some of others, they know what areas those are, and we need to target specific State Board of Education members. But we need to be very cautious in our approach. We don't want to alienate them because we need 3 Republican members to vote with us to reject it. And so we need to be very cautious in our approach and not to alienate the entire Republican membership.
What 3 should we target?
Very good question. I would say Thomas Ratcliffe, Pat Hardy, Marty Rowley, and Sue Melton Malone, and possibly Thomas Thomas Maynard. All we need is 3 of them. We haven't talked to all the Democrats, but I have no reason to believe that they're not going to support this issue. And amongst you, and I don't know if she's here, is our State Board of Education elect, Georgina Perez. She'll take the oath of office. She's standing in the back of the room over there. So she'll be taking the oath of office in January. So she's a warrior on the ground in her team right now because this vote's gonna happen in September, November, but I think the music's being cued for me to get off stage already. Anyhow, thank you guys. Keep up the good fight.
Thank you, Ruben, Melissa, and Elizabeth, thank you guys for coming. So we're going to start, we're going to do a presentation of the organization. So Dr. Maria Miranda, from the University of Texas San Antonio, and Dr. Jude Perlas are going to come speak right now. You guys welcome to the stage.
What you have to do is give everyone here recognition and an applause for each other because we come from all over the state from so many different organizations. And so this is the idea of what we say historic because we're coming together and creating this greater movement. I also want to tell you as well that we have then also the artwork by Mary Agnes Rodriguez, and we have the posters back there. So here's Jim.
Okay, really quickly, I just want to recognize the organizations that are going to work in the summit this afternoon. The Edwin Education Foundation, Latina Faculty Council, Arte de Lush, RGB Coalition for Mexican American Studies, SALT Jumpstart, 100,000 Poets for Change San Antonio, the Peace Center, Teach for America, Texas ASCD, LULAC, Nuestro Grupo Academia Leadership for Educational Equity, Center for Critical Race Studies, Resident Council, Heart of Texas Writing Project, Public Access Television, Teach for America, Brooks Academy of Science and Engineering, Urban 15, Oakwood Coalition of the Arts, Martinez Street Women's Center, HOPE, Say Yes School, Beaconsville Area Neighborhood Association, Aslan Arts, Letters and Stories, State Executive Board, Cine Studio San Antonio, 501c3, and many others that we will send out to you all at the end of the summer. So thank you all for participating. The other thing I want to do right now is introduce one of the main organizers and spearhead person of this summit is Juan Tejeda. And Juan has worked diligently in San Antonio for Somos Más, and he is director of the Center for Mexican American Studies at Palo Alto College, and he is the one that actually got the Center for Mexican American Studies at one out of all 5 colleges. So that's really great work that he's done for our own colleges. And for the last 2 years, he has been the lead for Max Tejas K-12 committee. And so I want to thank him for all the work that he does at our colleges in the state of Texas and nationally as well. So I'm going to bring out Juan Tejeda now. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Gracias a todos ustedes por estar aquí. As usual, we had over 400 people registered, and I guess a good percentage of those are here. And I want to thank all of y'all for being here. We got about half of what registered, and people are still coming in. But this is, I think, an outstanding showing, and I really, and all of us on behalf of the organizing committee here in Knox, Texas, Oklahoma, Somos Más was the host committee. I want to thank you for being here. I have the honor and the privilege of leading you all through a little orientation session right now for the breakout sessions. All of you got the summit schedule. I'd like for you to pull this out. You see the agenda for today's schedule, the summit schedule. Right after this, we're going to have a press conference right here in this room. And then after that, we'll have lunch will be provided. We have box lunches and drinks for y'all. And then from 1 to 4, 3 hour, we're going to be doing working breakout sessions. And this is really the thrust of this summit. Because last time when we met, and we've been meeting for the last few years at the Nox Texcoco conference, statewide conference, and we've met with the MOS committee for pre-K to 12. We met for a couple of hours, and the last time we met in Houston, we said 2 hours is just not enough to get all the work done that we have to do. There were so many different issues, and it was at that time that, and we've been discussing that for a year or two before that we needed a summit, a conference, a working conference, where we could really get into these issues and priorities and develop some strategies and action plans and people that are going to implement them. This is what this summit is about today. This is a working summit. We are here to work. We're not here like at the Nox Texcoco conference to just go and listen to the presentations, right, and enjoy them, and then get books signed afterwards and talk to the people. We're here to work, and the work is going to come from 1 to 4 this afternoon. So I hope that all of y'all that are so key to this summit today will stay here for these working sessions, and not just come here for the press conference and eat lunch and then leave. And that's very important, because you are the experts in Mexican American studies. You are the practitioners, you are the teachers and the educators, you are the community people that are implementing these programs in our schools and in our communities. That's why we're here. We are the experts, not these people who wrote the textbook over here, this proposed textbook. And it's one thing that I think that we should learn, and we need to learn, right, from our mistakes and from the work that we do. I learned from this proposed textbook. We knew 2 years ago, when it was Proclamation 2016, that as other people mentioned here, I think Representative Cortez and Fedez, we wanted a course implemented for high school. They didn't do that. They implemented Proclamation 2016 to develop textbooks and instructional materials for all of the ethnic studies: Native American, Mexican American, African American, and Asian American. We knew that they postponed it a year until 2017. We knew that we were going to have to propose some textbooks, but we didn't do it. None of us did it. The only textbook that was proposed was written by these, for lack of a better term to describe these people, Anglo-Americans. Or as my abuelita used to call them, los bolillos, los gringos. Anyway, and I found it very, very interesting that one of the authors, her name was, and I didn't even know it was a she, as written on the proposed textbook in the PDF form, is Jaime Riddle. I said, oh, well, so they did get a Latino or a Hispanic to be at least part of the authors. Then I found out that it was actually Jamie Riddle, and it was a gotcha. I was like, is that the way she spells her name? As Jaime, Jaime? And I didn't know if that was an intentional typo, or she really spells her name like that. Anyway, something to think about. We're going to have to find out. We need to research that. But the thing that we learned about that, again, the thing that we need to learn, and that's why we're here today, this is the focus of this summit, is that we cannot allow these people to co-opt our history, to write our history for us. Because if we do, we see what's happening. Right? We are the experts. We need to develop our textbooks. We need to integrate our textbooks into the schools. We have good textbooks out there that we can implement. And that's going to be part of the job of what we're going to do this afternoon, right? So, there are a couple of sort of I want to mention before I get started into the breakout sessions. I'm going to do a brief overview of the breakout sessions, and then we'll have a little chance to have some questions and answers here before we remain in this room for the press conference that we're going to have about this summit, and then before we go to lunch. So, logistics. We still need some minute takers for some of these breakout sessions, and you will find out once we get into the breakout sessions. So when you get into your breakout sessions, you're going to need to designate, if there's not one already that has been designated in your session, to have somebody that's going to take very accurate minutes, and it's going to be typed up on the computer. Okay? Secondly, we still need some people in these breakout sessions to document these breakout sessions. By documenting, I mean we're documenting these general assemblies here on video, right? This morning General Assembly and the evening General Assembly. But we have 8 different breakout sessions, and while there are some people that have been designated already, we still need, I think, about 4 or 5 different people. So hopefully we need to designate somebody in your breakout session that will document it. And it doesn't mean that you have to videotape on your phone the whole session, but it would be good to get kind of a little bit of the beginning, some of the important points throughout, and maybe at the end when we come together to document your final action plans and the people are going to do it. So just to document it. So those 2 things are very important, and they need to be, someone needs to be designated for that in your breakout sessions. That's the first order of business when you get into your breakout sessions. Besides introducing yourself briefly and then get on to the work at hand, I'll get into that in a minute. I also want to remind you that part of our documentation, we always leave that till the end to document our events and to take photos and video and audio recordings. And it is so important that we leave it out a lot of times. It's always like an afterthought. It should be at the front because we are making history here. This is history. And we have to document it or else it will be lost. So, another way that we're documenting this conference, this summit, is right on the front of your program. We have a hashtag MAS-TX Texas Summit 2016. So when you post photos or anything, people can take some photos from your sessions and here at the conference, please put the hashtag MAS Texas Summit 2016, and that creates a document also. That's very important. If you have any questions about the people that are going to be documenting, I'd like for you to talk to Leo Trevino here maybe over lunchtime. Leo, by the way, a big round of applause for Leo Trevino. He's the Knox Texas Local Chair. And also worked with Somos Mas and Bobby Intellect, and he started the first Somos Mas Mexican American Studies chapter at Leano Middle School here in San Antonio. With 6th graders, and that's very important, an after-school program. We're going to be talking about that in the middle school breakout session, but also the community breakout sessions, which are very important. As somebody mentioned earlier, we stand on the backs of many people, and I do want to mention Carmen Tafoya, I think that was out there, Jesse Carmen. First recently, Texas Poet Laureate and first San Antonio Poet Laureate, and has been involved in Mexican American Studies since the 70s, you know, so, and people like Dr. Emilio Zamora also lives here, Marta Cortera is here, Dr. Stein is here from EPL, who was here earlier, Dr. Josie Mendez Negrete, and so we are continuing this work, and here we are 50 years later from the implementation almost of developing of Chicano studies, and we're still fighting for Chicano and Mexican American Studies, you know, to get it implemented. And we're going to do it. No nos aguitamos. That's what we're here for. Okay. Now, to the nitty gritty. If you'll take out the sheet quickly, breakout session sheet that you have in your packet, it's front and back. So we have 8 breakout sessions. First one is information and data collection. Dr. Liliana Patricia Saldana is facilitating this. We're going to be talking, again, this is part of our documentation and finding out what's going on around the state of Texas in terms of MAS programs in our schools, in our community. We want to develop a central clearinghouse who's going to work in, I think, really might be going with the ones that Dr. Carmona and the UT Rio Grande Valley and the Rio Grande Valley Coalition have developed, which that site is, I think, what MAS Texas Education, and we'll be bringing that up. So, look at the second one is political legislative. We need to develop a strategy to advocate for Mexican American studies in our schools, with our school boards, with the Texas State Board of Education, and with our state legislature. It's going to be very, very important that we develop this strategy to get MAS integrated into our schools. Media is very important. The next breakout session, promotions and publicity, develop a promotions and publicity campaign for MAS, pre-K to 12 and higher education. What are the issues and priorities that we need to discuss in these breakout sessions, all these different breakout sessions? That's what you're going to be doing when you go into them. Community-based MAS programs, connecting MAS to parents and communities, lobbying against school. There's going to be overlap on a lot of these breakout sessions, but it's important that you discuss and brainstorm the issues that are pertinent to these breakout sessions, to designate the priorities that we need to work out, and then what do we need to do, right? Action plans, and then developing committees, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. The pre-K to 5th grade, I think this is so important that we reach our children as early as we can. Developing curriculum and textbooks and instructional materials and after-school programs, are so important. Middle school also, high school, we have 2 categories in high school. One for the social studies curriculum. We can implement Mexican American and other ethnic studies courses in our high schools and schools right now. We have the option to do that. But the schools are not doing it because it's too much work, we have to teach the test, because we're already overworked, and we have to do extra and develop a curriculum, we get textbooks. They're not doing it. We want to try to make it easy for these teachers and these schools to implement MAS in the schools by having teach-ready curriculum. And again, with this textbook issue, this is crucial for these pre-K to 5, middle school and high school sessions, that we need to have standards-ready textbooks and instructional materials that we can have in our clearinghouse resource site and say, okay, teachers, you need something for 5th grade, you need something for 7th grade, you need something for high school. Here's the textbooks that we've identified that are standards ready for the state of Texas. And I know she's going to come up and we're going to have a question and answer session, but go ahead, Regina, what do you want to bring up about that?
In 2017, the State Board of Education will be reviewing social studies history again.
2017, they're going to be reviewing social studies history again. The textbooks and instructional materials?
No, the standards.
The standards.
Which is where when the standards are developed, that's how they develop there.
The standards for the textbooks and instructional materials and for the curriculum too?
Yes.
Both.
So that would be a very good time.
Very important. You need to be ready for these things. None of us submitted textbooks. Who submits it? Gets it all wrong, biased, demeaning. Thank you.
Developing standards, this would be a very good time rather than having only a standalone course, but implementation with not only the textbooks that are printed for the state of Texas, but supplemental materials introduced. So this is a very good time to get people on committees for that.
Did everybody hear her? Did everybody hear her? It's an important time to get people on committees. In 2017, they're going to be reviewing the standards for both curriculum, textbook, and instructional materials. So we need to have our people on there. The other thing that we're going to be addressing is the process, because the process itself at the State Board of Education is flawed. I want to mention another thing that's very important here about this textbook issue. I think we didn't have a session designated just for the textbook issue, and while it may come up in your breakout sessions, I don't think that y'all are going to need to really deal with this very much. There is right now a coalition of MOS and other organizations from around the state that are getting together. There's 3 different groups of reviewers of this textbook. We're developing a statewide strategy for our opposition to this proposed textbook that's going to encompass media, protests, taken into the State Board of Education, the legislative side. So there's already a committee being formed statewide. So if it comes up in your breakout session, I think that you should deal with it quickly, know that there is a committee, and we'll keep you informed about what's going on statewide. I think what's more important is that you notice that we have textbooks and instructional materials in each of the school breakout sessions that we need to develop and have our textbooks and instructional materials, which includes videos and, audios and, music and other things that we need to integrate, that standards ready, that these teachers can access and integrate it into the schools. And we have a lot of still good Chicana and Chicano teachers and others that are integrating on their own, and this is so very important, right? So we need to have these things ready for them and curriculum. That's what we're going to be looking at. Don't focus and spend a whole hour or 2 hours just talking about this textbook issue when we're already developing a statewide strategy. Okay. So the 2 high school breakout sessions, if you notice, one is focused on the social studies curriculum. The other one is focused on the literature and fine arts curriculum. What you need to decide right now is which session you're going to be attending. We, again, are the experts here. So those people that have some expertise in any of these breakout sessions should be going there or have experience in them or interest in working in these particular aspects. Again, so if you haven't already decided, please decide before we go back to these breakout sessions after lunch. If you will look at the right, this, unfortunately, when this was printed, kind of the categories and subcategories of these breakout sessions got a little bit jumbled up. But if you look at pre-K to 5th grade, right to the right of that, it says importance of. And after school program should have been on the left. But after school programs are from pre-K to 5th are so important and culture and arts based. We have a captive audience, right? From 3 to 6 o'clock sometimes, from pre-K to 5th grade, that are there and after school doing nothing except watching TV. Man, what we could do with that. And already after school program there with some resource people and MOS people doing MOS-based after-school programs and arts-based after-school programs, and the impact we could have. But after that, I want you to consider these, as you look at all of these issues, go down a little bit, it says local indigenous-based curriculum. This is what some people have brought up. We as Chicanos and Mexican Americans and Mexicanos, we are indigenous first and foremost, and that has been denied us, and we've been detribalized. And we usually, in MOS curriculum, a lot of times we go over the same thing, the Olmecas, the Toltecas, the Aztecas. They never bring the fact of, how about the Payaya Indians that were here in San Antonio 15,000 years ago, Yanahuana, right? Well, we're descendant, right? We're so Aztec-centric. We're not all Aztecas, and we have to have a local indigenous-based curriculum and textbooks and instructional material development. The importance of the bilingual education programs. Look down there a little bit. Where is it? It shifted it over here. I had it on the right. In the printing somehow it shifted over. In middle school? Okay, it's at the top. Should have been on the right. The bilingual education programs and the teachers and how we can integrate, right, Mexican American studies and history and literature and arts into the bilingual education program, but also into other existing programs. The English classes, the history courses, the importance of that, in lieu of us creating and having teach-ready curriculum, we need to integrate our textbooks and instructional material to these teachers and these existing courses across the state and across the nation, right? English, integrate Chicano and Chicano literature. History, integrate Chicano and Chicano history, right? Integrate the arts, integrate the local indigenous-based curriculum. And our teachers are doing that sometimes, but we need to focus on that. It's very important. So those were some of the issues that I want you to look at. Quickly, turn the page, and I'm gonna have a few minutes for questions and comments before you break for the press conference. This is what you're gonna be charged to do in the breakout sessions. This is your development action plan. I want you to use this, and the facilitators are gonna be using this as a guideline. And the facilitators, by the way, are there to facilitate the breakout sessions, to keep us on time, to keep us on track, to keep us focused. But you are the ones that are going to be determining what are the issues, what are the important issues in this particular breakout session. What are our priorities, right? So first of all, you should designate, we'll have a breakout session, we'll have a facilitator, we need to designate a minutes taker, and I should have put it down there also right below the minutes taker, who's going to be documenting this, at least good parts of it on video. So you should write that in also after minutes taker. Briefly, when you get into your breakout sessions, you should introduce yourselves and briefly mention if you're already working on some type of MOS programs in your schools or your community. Briefly, right? Just to get to know each other briefly. Then, number one, again, we are the experts. We are the practitioners. We are the educators. We are the people that are working in MOS in our schools and our communities. What are the important issues? This is like a think tank, right? Brainstorm, what are the important issues in this particular breakout session, and list by priority. And we said, well, let's take about an hour for that. Number two, brainstorm what needs to be done and what can be done about these issues and these priorities. Again, brainstorm. The minute taker is going to be writing this all on the screen, right? And you're going to be able to see it says, oh, we need this, write this down. The minute takers, we need accurate minute takers, documenting everything on computer. Everything's going to be on computer. You're going to see it on the screen in each of the breakout session classrooms. Brainstorm these first two sessions. What can be done? What needs to be done? And think in terms of short term. This is an important priority, right? This needs to be done right away. Okay? Short term and then long term. While this is important, it's going to take 2 or 3 years to really implement this, but we need to start now. So this should take about another hour, brainstorming. What can be done? What can be done about these issues and priorities? And third, and finally, who in this session, and it has to be us again that's going to be doing the work, right? Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? I am Riddle. I mean, Jamie. From these sessions, and this is very important, we're going to develop an action plan. And who's going to implement these actions? So, who in this session will chair a committee to implement the above action plan in number 2? And we should have a chair for each priority. And then we'll take their name and email and telephone number. Who in that committee that you're working with, the breakout session, wants to work on this issue, wants to be part of that committee that's being chaired by these people? Again, one committee per issue, so that we can be effective, so we can do some work, right? And we're looking at short-term deals that sometimes can be done real quickly, sometimes that might take within a year's time to do. Long-term, a little bit more than a year, from 2 to 5. But we need to begin and we need to do this work. Because again, if we don't do it, who will? So we'll be designating a chair for each committee, for each issue and priority, a committee for each issue, and we need to write down the names and the addresses, at least the email and cell phone numbers for each people on these committees. And then it would be good to break down into those committees in this third hour briefly, go over the action plan, what can be done, raise it a little bit more, and then report back quickly, like 20, 30 minutes when you break down to your groups, then we can report back again to your larger breakout sessions so that the minute takers can get all that information, and you're done then. The last thing that needs to be done is that the facilitator then will be printing up the minutes from this session and summarizing and reporting the issues, the priorities, the action plans, the committees, and the timeline. When can this be done? How much time do we need to do this? Again, some things can be done immediately, Some things can be done within 6 months to a year. Other things are long-term that need to be done, started now, it's gonna take maybe 2 to 5. This is what we're here to do. And I want to leave you before I open up for some quick questions or comments with this quote by a Hopi elder. And some people have said that it's a Hopi, the Hopi Indians, right, from the Mexico Hopi prophecy. But I read it as coming from a Hopi elder that says, "For we are the ones that we have been waiting for." Oh, questions or comments?
Well, not to belabor the point, that 50% of our community at least is female. The curriculum normally, even the grassroots curriculum, tends to be 90% male in content. So when you think curriculum, overall indigenous, yes, 50% at least female, and the content is there. So we just need to work with the information data gathering and get those resources in there for you. But think, you know, what the community composition is like.
And that's a good point. Did everybody hear that? And most of our teachers are female, right? And we need more. One of the things that I didn't mention that I had to the right there, but that's so important, and it is there somewhere. I didn't see it because it was shifted. Oh, yeah, right under middle school to the right, after school programs. But the importance of having Chicano, Mexican American teachers and aides at our schools, right? Especially when we have a majority of Chicano and Chicana children. That role model is so important. But that most of our teachers are also female, so we need male teachers too. Other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear, so everybody can hear.
Sure.
Would you stand up, please?
Sure, I just wanted you to remind everyone to get out and vote.
You just did, obviously. We had an anti-Trump protest rally yesterday, 2 of them. In fact, that's why I'm all burned up. Well done this time. 3.5 hours. Thank you. Yes, that's very important, part of our political legislative agenda. Questions or comments? Loud and clear, please.
Welcome everybody to Antonia. And I'm gonna go get some voter registration cards. I'm talking a little bit. And if you're not registered, please get registered to vote. And if you have family members that need to get registered, take the cards with you. Make sure they get registered. Secondly, this is very historic, as Juan has said before. I was part of it. The Edgewood High School was walked out in 1968. And so 2 years later, I was a student here at SAC. And this very auditorium, which was technically together, famous quote of Kill the Grito, done here in this auditorium. And so, of course, there were some fellow students of mine that said, "You heard that guy said?" I said, "Yeah, he said kill the people." But yeah, but did you give the rest of it? That kill the people economically, educationally, socially. In other words, get the resources that we need to improve our community. So again, welcome to San Antonio. This is very historic, and adelante.
Before everybody goes to your session, because of course I'll be in the legislative session, I wanted to let everybody know that it is thank you. In election code, there is legislation that mandates that all high school principals must be voter registrars. And twice a year, they must pass out voter registration cards to all students that are either 18 years old or 17 and 11 months, 10 months. They must pick them up twice a year. They must turn them in twice a year. They must promote civic engagement and voter participation. So if your high school principals are not doing that, please bring it to their attention that it is in legislation. If anybody wants to see a copy of that legislation, please let me know. I have it on my webpage to pass out or to share with everybody. Thank you.
What you spoke of is very, very important. I work in the Houston Independent School District, which is the largest system in the state, and the principals that I work with there,
they're sympathetic, but they don't want to do it. In other words, it's another issue where our communities come together, they don't want to register the seniors to vote because why? When it boils down to it, it's too much trouble. So again, there's just so many issues that we have to work on and put pressure. I mean, this is my experience, and
You're not for is, we have a student voter registration, student voter initiative with Senator Rodriguez.
Can you hear the microphone?
Senator Rodriguez is working with Senator Garcia to do the same thing. So we do have the principals who are voter registrars, but the principal can designate another teacher to do that, or assistant principal, somebody, right? But with Senator Garcia and the student voter initiative, she will have interns most likely coming in, explaining the voting process, the importance of voting in a very non-partisan way. And then this promotes the civic engagement and the voter registration, and it also sends home blank voter registration cards for their families. So we get everybody participating in the community.
Thank you. So a couple of more quick questions or comments before we're going to be breaking for our press conference, and we'll see if we have any members of the media.
This is Dominic Sanagores, and I was working with Southwest Voter, and actually they are currently working, my will is currently working with high schools and colleges, and speaking to the principals, speaking to the heads of those schools to try to implement registration programs starting in 2016-17. We started this year, so they are in it. So if you work at any of those schools here in San Antonio, within the area of Somerset, please talk to them. Please talk to them, okay?
Thank you. There's another question or comment there. We're going to have to move it pretty quickly.
I'll probably go fast. A comment? Buenos días, good morning. My name is Lupe Mendez, from Houston. I currently work not in the public school sector, Cristo Rey Jesuit College Preparatory School, Houston. I guess I'm like a double agent almost. I've been in conversations with Momentum Instruction as far as this book is concerned. As we make whatever decisions we make in terms of what these next action steps are, please be cognizant that the work that we're doing not only affects our public school students, but as well as our homeschool, our charter school, and our private schools. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up, I've been actually in good conversation, she's about to get blasted, by a certain individual who's in charge of Momentum Instruction. And I've been able to find out that if any school outside of the public school system wanted to get a hold of that book, they could get it today. I was actually given access to the entire thing and requested under false pretenses, that my Jesuit Catholic school could get the book, 30 copies, and all the nice things that come with it for just under $2,500. That can happen within 2 weeks' time if my principal wanted it. So in terms of all that, it's not just what's happening in the state, but nationally, they can make a ton of money off of everybody.
Yeah, and I want to remind you that, again, there is a coalition statewide that's working on this issue, focused on just this issue. This summit is much, much broader, as you can see from the breakout session, than just this one issue. We will keep you informed. We're already getting organized in that regard. We're going to take it all the way to Texas State Board of Education and make sure that this proposed textbook does not get adopted.
I'd just like to remind people that there are a lot of materials available. My name is Bryce Milligan, I'm the publisher of Wiggins Press. I've been publishing Chicano Lit for the last 40 years. Juan runs Hustler Libre Press. We got Cinco Puntos. There's a lot of Chicano literature available, and I've been submitting it periodically to the Texas State Board of Education, and I've never heard one word back from them.
That's why we have to address the process of not just the textbook, but the process of adopting this textbook.
Exactly.
Instruction material. Quickly,
real quickly, Emilio Zamora from Austin. You know, the Texas Freedom Network and all that met a couple of days ago, you know that, right? When did we hear from them about what they discussed?
We had representatives from Somos Mas and other organizations that are going to be writing up a report, and we can share that. I think that coalition is important, addressing this one specific issue. And we do need a statewide strategy that's going to be attacking this on a lot of different fronts. But Dr. Liliana Patricia Saldana, who's here somewhere, she's going to be writing up a report. We can share that with everybody.
Well, I just wanted to know, I want everybody to know that whatever was discussed there has to come through us too, at the end of the day, and that we have to decide. If people speak about us, we have to be there too.
And that issue does come up, and I think Emilio is right on track, because sometimes, again, just like they're doing with this textbook, they are co-opting the issue. That, again, we are the mosque historians and experts and practitioners and educators and people that are working in mosques in the communities, and I personally agree with Emilio on this issue that Texas Freedom Network and MALDEF and all other organizations, we are the ones that are reviewing this book. They're not doing it, right? Why? Because we are the Mexican American Studies professors and historians, right? And we are the ones that have to check to make sure that this information is accurate, that's based on current, right, literature and scholarship. So they have to come to us. But a lot of times these organizations want to take the lead, they want to become the face of this issue, like Texas Freedom Network. They are not the face. We are the face. Look around. We are the face of the issue. Right? We are the we are the educators that teach these cultures. We are the writers of Chicano and Chicano literature. We have to be the ones that are up in front and discussing that. MALDEF and all these other organizations should be supporting us. Get on? Yeah. Right. We'll make sure that happens.
My name is Tomas Morales. I'm Chief of Staff to State Senator Jose Menendez. My boss has taken a very strong stand against the textbook and has expressed his frustration and concerns to the State Board of Ed members. One of the things that he wanted to just relay to y'all is to thank you, because your efforts and your diligence is going to help us fight back, and it will continue, because the folks on the other side, this is just a demonstration of a symptom. There's a cause there where they're aggressively attacking us, and y'all, we want to appreciate your diligence, and I know many of you for many years, and y'all have been doing this for a long time, and I'm also excited about seeing young people here as well. Thank you.
And that's very important. Thank you for being here representing State Senator Jose Menendez, and he's been a supporter of MOS, and we've talked personally. That's going to be part of this strategy that we're going to do. The legislative aspect by State Representative Alonso, who was here earlier, State Senator Menendez, is very important, because they are the ones that can dictate what the State Board of Education has to do. And that's going to be a very important part of the strategy as we move forward, not just with this textbook issue, but integrating Mexican American and other ethnic studies in all of our schools. Very important. Do we have any members of the media here already? Yes? Who are y'all with? And who else? The Rivard Report. Any other members of the media here? Excuse me?
Yes, I told
Ranger, okay, great. You know, we also have the Texas Democratic Convention that is in town this week, and they're finishing up, so I know the media was very spread out. But thank you for being here, the ones that are here, and I'm hoping that some other people will be here. Okay. So I think we're going to move now. I'm going to turn it over, unless we have a really pressing question or comment.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure everyone considers one of the biggest obstacles that we have as educators and people who are advocates for education is the STAR test. And you need to consider that when you are in your sessions, that what physically and mentally affects students. So please consider that.
I have a logistical solution for the textbook. My name is Trey Gonzalez, South Texas College. I'm also on the American Historical Association Council. The AHA, which is the largest and oldest body of historians, professional historians, has already taken notice of the issue, wants to make a statement. I told them to wait from the council to our report. So the way you told the conference for what it's meant to do, if you want, or if you're currently reading and evaluating the textbook, meet me at lunch. I'm going to put together a list of all the people engaged in the actual reading and evaluating the textbook. So that way you don't suck any time away from our respective sessions of the textbook. Trust me, national organizations are ready to respond, but they're waiting on us to give the go-ahead. So please contact me so we can focus on stuff we need to do today.
Thank you, Dr. Trinidad Gonzalez. I do want to mention that in these breakout session sheet and the little subcategories for each session, these are just some things and issues that have come up. By no means are they all of the issues that necessarily will come up. This is up to you to determine what's important, what are the priorities, what are the issues. That's why we have other issues in all of those right now. I think we're going to go ahead and move into the press conference aspect of this this morning General Assembly. And I want to thank you once again for being here and for working with us on this very important summit. These afternoon breakout sessions are going to be crucial. And once again, we are the ones that we have been waiting for. Now back to Dr. Christopher Carmona, who's going to lead us into the press conference. Thank you.
All right, so underneath the three speakers, we're at the June, like I said, you guys want to come up here on stage?
Yeah. Well, just give us like 5 minutes, and we're gonna set up, and then we'll get the press release done, and Leo Trevino will be the moderator. Yeah, the press want to come up front and walk in.
Can you read the press up front so that they can?
Videos out there?
What?
Leo, where are you at?
If you're here with the press, if you want to just come on down to the front, that will make sure that we pick up sound as best as possible. And we can start prepping questions, and we're going to get our panelists up here so we can answer them for you.
If we could just get all the people that are going to be up on stage to come up on stage, that would be great.
Aisha Perez, if we can have you up to the stage, we're about to get started. All right, this time we're getting started with the press conference, so, we're gonna start opening up for questions. Before you ask your question, if you could please identify yourself so we can be sure to document, who's asking which question. There's a lot of cameras in the room, and we have some up top that might not be able to see your faces as we go through this process. But we are gonna make a statement first. So at this point, June, well, let me introduce the panelists in case you all mentioned before. Starting on y'all's far right, we have V. June Pedraza, who is the chair of the National Association for Chicana and Chicano Studies. To her right, we have Marisa Perez, who is here on behalf of the Texas State Board of Education. And then on her right, we have Christopher Carmona, who is a member of the Rio Grande Valley Coalition for Mexican American Studies and K-12 Education. And also the chair for the Knox House Focal Committee for Pre-K-12. First question, or I'm sorry, statement.
We're going to do a short statement on why we're all up here for the press conference, and then we'll open it up to questions. I'm going to start with Chris.
All right, so, I'm here to talk on behalf of both the Committee for Moss in Texas Schools for Knox Tejas and for the RGV Coalition, which we have been working together on this for a while. So my goal for this conference summit and going forward from here is not just to create courses in Texas public schools, but to create programs. With programs in as many Texas schools as we can get that include social studies, literature, fine arts, science courses, law enforcement, all these courses that we need to have Mexican American Studies Center for. That is the goal that I have set out for the 10-year, 20-year plan there. We need to have not just in specific areas of social studies, literature, fine arts, but in all the aspects that we have. Most people don't think about Mexican American Studies or ethnic studies as dealing with math or social sciences, but it's so involved in the way we deal, the way we teach these areas, that there's some that we need to understand that there is a culturally centered, we need to have culturally specific curriculum in all categories. That's my thank you.
Good morning. Again, my name is Marisa Perez. I'm the Texas State Board of Education member for District 3. I represent most of San Antonio, down to the Rio Grande Valley. And I'm here today to share my support generally for Moss and specifically to discuss this Mexican American Heritage book. I know this is not the focus of the conference, and so I want to be very clear that I'm a huge supporter of Moss in K-12 and college. I have not personally experienced any sort of Mexican American studies until I was in college, and so all of the knowledge that I had, the historical information that I got was through family stories. I am a daughter and granddaughter of migrant farm workers. Again, I mentioned earlier, my grandmother picketed as a young child right alongside Anita here. And so this is near and dear to my heart. And just want you all to know that the work that the Moss experts do is incredibly important. As Chris said earlier, I think that culturally relevant teaching is vital for the development of our students and ultimately for our nation. And so, again, I'm inspired by the literature and the
the writings of individuals who respect and acknowledge what it means to involve our culture in everyday life and in every core subject that we teach, because core content can definitely involve and implement Mexican American studies. And so I'm happy to be here and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm June Terraza, and I am part of the Anthropologists. I chair the English department of Vista College. And I also work with our CMOS program at NBC, and I am also the chair of Knox School. And I want us all to really think about today, because I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks now as I sit through workshops from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board on what they want to do for the next, I don't know, 15 years to do it. Oh, it's a year.
Jim,
What,
a little
yeah.
closer to the microphone.
My mic's out.
Now, is it on now?
It was out, okay. So this has really been on my mind in terms of Mexican American studies and navigating and negotiating higher ed in terms of 60 by 30. Have you all heard of that? Yes, okay. So what I was thinking about was not only how do we save humanity, right? Because 60 by 30 is 60% of college students should have a degree and it should be industry-based, right? So I think that what concerns me is they're calling it student-centered teaching again, but I think it's more education for industry. Corporate, yes. And so, of course, the four goals for the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board are marketable skills in each class. And if you can't prove that your class offers marketable skills, then it will not be in the core. Of course, student debt, 60%, and then completion are the four goals that we're working with. And so, for humanities and people who are teaching Mexican American studies, I think that in this new process, our classes are going to get cut once again. And not only are we dealing with the state, but we're also dealing with our own administration, right? And race and ethnic studies are not a priority at administrative levels. I mean, they would rather give money to STEM, we all know that, than to MOS. So K through 12 is very important because I think that if we give our students their own subjectivity in the classroom starting in K through 12, then they become invested in their education, right? And if they are invested in their own education, then they can help fight this fight. And they can stop education from being industry and corporate to having it about knowledge again. And so I think the only way to really, really fight this battle is to put Mexican American studies in K through 12 and give our students the subjectivity they need in education so they can fight this fight with us. And that's what I'm here to talk about today.
All right, so at this time, we'll go ahead and open the floor to questions. Go ahead, ma'am, and who are you with?
My name is Felmy Baba. I am Vice Chair of the Hispanics Organized for Political Education. I'm here to read copies of a resolution that was approved yesterday at the Democratic State Convention by Tejano Democrats. I believe copies up here, and I have copies for the media with our presenter. And basically, we're here to loan in solidarity our political support to all of the organizations that are here and that have been working so very hard, doing a stellar and excellent and exceptional job on the academic part of putting all of our resources together. But we are here to tell you, as we know, all of the state board members are elected, and we are here to tell all of our constituents throughout the state of Texas that on the political end, we are going to be on guard with who it is that is running for the positions on the state board, and then we're here to support you. We will be there in number
to ask the state board to halt and to stop the process of adopting this vote, to call for a new proclamation, and that we're here to support, not take the lead, but politically, we are ready in solidarity to be as your backup for all of the great things that you all are doing. Thank you on behalf of Joey Cardenas, our chair for Texas Tejano Democrats, and Eva Chavez, our chair for Hispanics Organized for Political Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma. As a representative of the State Board of Education and one of the staffs on the board, we very much appreciate the resolution. We will acknowledge it, and at least the staffs on the board will acknowledge it. We will be working very hard with our colleagues who don't necessarily fall in line with us, and try to talk consensus basically, because this book is not something that Mexican American Studies stands for. A lot of the work in there is subjective, and we recognize that. And it's a matter of working with the individuals on the board who don't necessarily acknowledge that there are factual errors in this. And so we are working. We're already in communication with our colleagues, and we're trying to in preparation for the conversation that will happen in September, we are working. And so we have several months to gain at least the support of some of the moms on the board, and we will continue to work on that and answer any questions. And we will be reaching out to our colleagues on the elected side to see what we can do to sort of garner support in maybe the areas of Texas where it's a little more challenging. So thank you so much for the work, Velma, and for the coalition that's put that work together.
I also want to bring up a point too that I'm kind of concerned about going into today, and I think it's a very important topic that y'all should kind of discuss in your breakout sessions. And I think that MOS in higher education is actually easier for us to implement, not easier for us to get funding and et cetera. But I think when we're talking about MOS and K through 12, there's a lot of systems that we have to break down in order for that to happen, right? We have K through 12 that is teaching for tests, right? So we have TEEPs, we have state mandated exams, and I just think, like, I look at the structure of K through 12, and I think it can be done, but I want to know, how do we strategize and then fight for the implementation in K through 12? When you have the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and I was dealing with them, but of course, what's the other organization that we're dealing with? TEA, that's the one, yes, the Board of Education. So we have three big hurdles that are always here. Yeah, Barbara.
Yeah, I'm Barbara Redondo, is on the record, and you and I have talked about this because I teach a class of biological and social.
We have a microphone over there.
Huh?
Microphone.
Coming in. Oh, you can hear me.
No, we can't.
I got it. Yeah, okay. Anyway, the goalpost. And I teach a social class at my local college, and I'm really honored and excited that Juan has been there and is leading, by the way. December is going to be a hard act to follow. But Chicano, what I see with my students is that, and these are brown, all my students are brown. They barely know who Cesar Chavez was. Barely. They don't speak Spanish. And at a time when, we're a global world, we say that over and over and over, it becomes critical in social work. And that's just apart from the, just the regular English side of it. They need to know their stories, because otherwise they can't tell people if they don't know culture, much less language. And it becomes vital in all areas. I have a friend who has a graduate degree in economics, for example, and she's dying to teach a course on inequality, because she recognizes that Chicanos, Mexican Americans, don't always understand how certain financial instruments and tiers
affect them and how society has been set up. So it becomes vital. I also wanted to say, a couple of years ago, I was in Poland, and I'm going back. My brother lives there, probably the only Chicano in Poland. And he learned Polish in 7 years. 7 years. He reads it and he writes it. There's no excuse for people who are native Texans do not speak Spanish. No excuse, okay? And it's the students that I had from the Ukraine, I'm from all over Poland and from Belarus, part of Russia now and all that. They speak 2, 3, 4 languages. They're dying to know about us. They want to know. They know our geopolitics. So I encourage you, and by the way, Christopher's probably my third cousin, right? Anyway, but de todos modos, it's important, Mexican American Studies has resonance not just for us, but for Texas and for the world. What we have to offer matters. It will make us stronger, it will make us multidimensional, the more we know about who we are, the more we recognize that we are one with the world. Otherwise, there would be, this life and distrust and fear. Take it from somebody who's there with us.
I have a question about real fast. We're gonna have time on. All right, we're good. No. But I think those are good points, and I think all of us in the room know that Moss is so important, right? That's what we're all, I've majored in it, and a lot of my colleagues are here, and the students. But I think there's also a fear that if we put Moss in K-12, that gives a lot of power to Latinos, right?
Of course it does.
So that is one that we have to break, but it gives power. It gives you, I'm just saying that's a battle that we have to.
It gives power, but if we, and I know that people here can develop a curriculum that has depth, and has meaning, then our children will grow up loving who they are. What happens to my students in the classroom that I work at is what we miss in, the little I've seen in academia, is we teach to the left brain, but the right brain is the power. That's where the senses are, that's where the heart lies, and that's where we learn to love who we are. And as we learn that, we learn to love others and all. And that's critical. That is, and yes, that's power. And don't be ashamed of it. We haven't been taught that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much. We're going to keep the questions moving because I also want to give the press an opportunity to ask questions that the team had asked. This is the press conference portion of the summit. We do have a question down here, real quick.
Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and I actually came from Austin and I'm the president of the Texas Hispano Council for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I really wanted to emphasize the point that it's not just about Spanish, we also need to consider about Mexican Sign Language and Cuban Sign Language and all the other sign languages that are of Hispanic origin. It's not just about Spanish. And especially for us residents who live in Texas, who are deaf, we are funded by the state. But as you all I'm sure have noticed, we experienced some budget cuts and Spanish classes have been cut, and we really don't know how it is that we can really teach those Hispanic deaf and hard of hearing students their native language, which would be Spanish, their heritage language. So we want to go ahead and see how it is possible to not only teach them the language, but how they can develop a sense of self-identity. And it's not just here in Texas, but how it can also be applied nationally. Thank you. And to add to that, my name is Carla Garcia Fernandez, and I also am from Austin, Texas. And something else that needs to be really emphasized is that I grew up with a hearing family, people who speak Spanish. All of them were here. I was the only one that was deaf. And I went to the New Mexico School for the Deaf. And in that area, all of the teachers were of Anglo origin. So I was never exposed to my actual culture, not to my home culture. I had to be involved in two worlds, both the one that can hear and the Spanish community that I I'm not often included in because I am deaf, as well as other deaf Hispanics are also. And you look at me, and if you can take away the label of being disabled, you can remember that not only am I deaf, but I also have a Spanish Chicana identity, and that I need to be a part of those things. We had, again, we have Anglo deaf ed teachers who teach who teach deaf studies. And we need to make sure that Chicano studies are involved in those deaf studies for them, so that way they can develop a correct self-identity. So that's something that I also really
I just want to thank you so much for standing up and bringing up the point that sometimes is lost on a lot of us. And just personally want to say that you mentioned this disability. I think that you're actually a model code switcher. I think that's incredible, and that's something that a lot of us can learn from as well. And so one of the things that we can do here in the state is engage our elected officials, our state representatives, in particular, because they are the ones that create that funding model, and they're the ones that can support this. And as a State Board of Education member, I am more than happy to have those conversations with our electeds who make that sort of policy. And open up the doors for that sort of funding. But thank you for bringing to light this issue.
Okay, my name is Chris. I'm a teacher in SASD at formerly middle school. But just to answer your question about getting it into K through 12, you have a unique opportunity right now because SASD is under new leadership. And we basically, if you go through the master schedule is the key to everything. And because they're competing with the charter schools and everything that's going on, they're open to all sorts of stuff, all the research backs, health test scores, everything. But the key is getting that audience with that principal while he's developing that master schedule. You usually have to go through their curriculum person. I think that's Riggs. I think it's the lady's name. I could be, what's that? Lisa Riggs. And if you get past that gatekeeper, then it becomes individual principles from there. And that is, I think, is a very good way because of what's going on with SASD right now. All the changes and everything that's going on, a very good opportunity to do all sorts of things. So that's just one thing.
To that, to your question about how to get through standardized testing, it is important to inform the community about their options, and especially how they can opt out of testing. So we have a group in Houston called Community Voice for Public Education, and I know San Antonio has a group as well, and throughout Texas. So empowering the community with that option to opt out, with call to action to encourage mass education in the school. So please talk to your communities as educators, talk to your principals about opting out. It's a scary subject, but it's something that needs to be pushed forward.
Welcome back. My name is Isabel Tapkin of the Texas Tribune. And I'm wondering if the textbook is not approved, what's the next step, I guess, at the board level? And also what might be done differently next time to get more submissions, different submissions, textbooks that you consider approving.
And that'll be a question for me, I'm sure. Yes, so if the board disapproves or does not allow the passing of this textbook, the next step is to engage all of you, our experts. And this is something we, Ruth and I had conversations about prior to this adoption, was that there are a lot of materials that have been created, you're using it in higher ed, and they can be adapted to K-12 very easily. We have teaks that are aligned, so this will sort of wrap into what I was going to the main point. But currently, even though we don't have a Mexican American Studies specific course, we do have a social studies special topics course that every district in the state of Texas can implement. And through that course, you can implement Mexican American Studies. We heard earlier that higher ed has curriculum at the ready aligned to our teams that can be implemented. And so we just need to, it's a matter of introducing this to our school districts. And so when we're doing that, we can also integrate those or introduce those supplemental texts Because there's a lot of literature out there. It's just a matter of going through the state board process. One of the other things I want to remind everybody is, back in 2010, Senate Bill, I think it was Bill 6, was passed that allowed for school districts to no longer have to adopt, or to no longer have to use specifically adopted state board of education text. So that's the beauty in this situation, right? We may or may not put our seal of approval on this textbook, but that doesn't mean that districts are required to use this book. So districts still have the freedom to go out and seek out materials that are recommended by higher ed, by experts in MOS. And so there are still options, though, the idea would be that for some districts, they like to utilize books that have the seal of approval for state board. In this case, we are hoping that that's not the case. And like I said, implementation of already utilized materials is going to be what we need to do. And in order to avoid something like this from happening in the future, I think it's just a matter of, we had plenty of notice. I know Juan spoke about it earlier. It was just a matter of the lack of submission. And so we just really need to hunker down, we need to work as a group and really just identify what materials we'd like to have proposed for an adoption well in advance. And I think that's going to be the key, mobilizing much more, with much more time, because it is a shame that we have this opportunity and because we had one submission of a very skewed book, we are not going to have the materials we were asking for. But it's not hopeless, like I said. We have plenty of literature out there, and I encourage higher ed and experts who know this literature to partner with school districts and let them know, hey, we have these materials that are being used in higher ed, and we're more than happy to share. And so there are options. It's not the end. It's actually they're positive options because we know that the materials being used in higher ed are strong, they're fact-based, and we have experts that are backing us.
I have a question right here in the front.
De 20 días de nuestra palabra libre de aplicante.
Can you send that over to me?
So 20 días of libre de aplicante de nuestra palabra. We're actually streaming this live, so hi to guys that are streaming this on nuestra palabra.
Can we get the microphone?
And we'll also put some on our radio show on Tuesday. And I guess I have a quick two-part question. So one would be, Melissa, let's just clarify. So right now, if the Texas State Board of Education voted along party lines, this book would be voted in because it's a majority Republican vote, it seems. And then the second part would be, you mentioned there's probably a need for 3 Republicans to vote differently than along party lines typically. I just want to clarify, I know Donna Horridge, which is our representative from District 6 in Houston, she's not an opponent in November. And we're going to ask both of them where they stand on this. We're not advocating one way or the other. We'd love to see where they come from. So one, is that the case if the vote today seems like it's party lines? And then are there any other seats that have an election coming up that you know of?
There are seats that have elections coming up, and off the top of my head, I can't think that we're staggered, definitely. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's split on party lines. It's more conservative extremists that intentionally keep things from entering textbooks. And so yeah, I couldn't tell you that, it's party lines. We do have some members on the board that are Republicans that are willing to work with us. And so it's just a matter of working together with our colleagues that don't necessarily always agree with us, and just showing them this is something that's very, very important to the development of our students in our classrooms, and that there's tons of research out there to support culturally relevant teaching. And in order to effectively and efficiently do that, we have to have fact-based materials in our classrooms, and that's not the case with this book. So it's a matter of stressing that message to all of the members of the board.
I think there was one in the back.
Yeah, we had a question right here. The gentleman in the white shirt.
My name's Ronald Tobias. I'm from Austin, 25 years old, with Edge Films and former school films. So I'm actually a filmmaker and an educator myself. My question is, a lot of the topics that are on throughout all of through pre-K detail with the flow is supplemental materials that are going to be used. How does someone pitch supplemental materials to be used at all schools? My education as a Chicano, I didn't know the term or know what it meant to be Chicano until my visit to New Mexico with Jimmy Santaropa and seeing all the Chicanos together. His words, Chicanos are a cosmic craftsman, right? We're peaceful and so how do you use supplemental materials that aren't just books, but to reach to kindergartners that love reading comic books and seeing animation? How do we get the word out so people can collectively tell our stories and pitch to schools? Because people like MGM Studios and Universal, the money is in the big blockbusters. But here locally, we can actually access incentives and funds at the local level to help promote and make films for students in the high school level. Especially with history fairs that are in almost every middle school, elementary school, and a high school program. History fairs allow you to choose one independent study topic. So I was just wondering to know what is your plan to at least reach out to creative writing mindset filmmakers, artists, creators to actually implement those supplemental materials into the schools.
I'm going to go ahead and take that one. That is actually one of our breakout sessions, is the media. How do we reach that? Supplemental materials is what we're trying to do. So we're trying to coordinate a lot, if not all, most of our information onto one particular website where teachers can grab, all of the supplemental materials. So all of us are going to contribute to it, is the answer to your question. So we can put it on that one website that everybody can kind of grasp or get to it, right? And we can just spread it like we do everything else through social media. But if you need certain things, you can go here and you can find this. And then when you do that, you start to get more outreach. Then all this stuff becomes more available for teachers to use. Because the front line of all of this is the teacher. Because you can have a district that will say, yes, we want to teach it, and the principal says that, but if they don't have the teachers to teach these courses, it's not going to happen, right? And it's the teacher who controls the content of what they can teach, right? And so that's the most important aspect of this whole thing. We need the teachers to want to teach the classes. And so what we're trying to do is provide the materials to make it as easy as possible. And most of the principals will okay the courses, as long as the teacher does most of the work. They're going to say, okay, teacher has everything prepared, that's the thing. So that's most of the effort. The effort's going to come from us to get to the teachers to make it as easy as possible.
If I can do a quick follow-up on that, maybe I'm right here. And just to follow up on this question, because there are state standards, right, Marisa, that any textbook or instructional materials have to abide by, and as Georgina said earlier, those are going to change, but they're going to be reviewed in 2017. So if you can speak to that, what that process is.
Yes, so it's sort of simple. So instructional materials when used in the classrooms actually only have to meet 50% of the TEKS. So if your instructional materials align to the TEKS to 50%, then they can be used in the classroom. And then of course, a teacher is responsible for identifying supplemental material, additional supplemental materials that will meet the other 50%. So that's one thing I wanted to clarify. In terms of what the adoption looks like in 2017, we can start more like mobilizing now. Talk about what it is that students should be learning in the classroom. When we have expert reviewers, identify those individuals, Ruben and I have worked with Juan and Tony, and so, send those people over to us. We want to get as much representation on these boards, these panels as possible. And Georgina will be joining us, God willing, this coming year. And so, you have a lot of avenues to get to us, and we are more than happy to reach out and identify, and help identify and work with you all to have a strong set of individuals who know the content and who know what it is developmentally appropriate for our students at each grade level. We can't let others tell us what that looks like. And in addition to how we introduce this to schools, that's a great question. I think social media is awesome, having websites is awesome, but I think also, identifying those school districts that are very interested.
Talking too much.
Did you hit the button? On the...
Okay, I'm gonna speak really loudly and hopefully you can hear me. I think that the best thing that you need to do is speak to local school boards as well. Identify those school board members who have a passion for this as well, and they have a lot of power within their districts because they institute local policy, and so they can help identify what courses the district wants to go in, what direction those teachers want to go in, and so getting the support of the local school boards is also very important. They are also local elected officials, and they also have a constituency to answer to. And so if you have a strong community of supporters from us, then these local board members, if they're representative of their community the way they should be, will help to implement that, help that, get that started in the school districts as well.
All right, we're gonna take about 2 more questions because we're wrapping up.
We can take this question, and Martha's been having her hand up for a long time too.
Where's Martha?
Right here. Martha, imagine first, and then he can do the.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then we'll come back up here.
The only reason I want to speak is because to the entire audience is on the issue of STEM education. And one of the reasons why our local Cooperative Academy is, and it's going to be more focused on Indigenous studies, is because this is a way of extending into STEM. Dr. Sanchez, in the late 50s, I guess, published a small book on Maya arithmetic. And there's a lot to be done with regards to zoology, natural science, astronomy, mathematics, medicine, engineering, urban planning. My hometown, Casas Grandes, is in Chihuahua. It's that kind of towns that was planned expertly as an urban community. And so if we expand and have a subcommittee in Indigenous studies, we can incorporate STEM topics into Mexican American studies and prepare our children to go into medicine, engineering, architecture, and a lot of other things. Mathematics, physics, astronomy. That's what we're missing. And I think that is a fearful element of this whole strategy with regards to Anglo-Americans and the way they think of English and the way they think about us. And that is why, but we can beat them at that game by beginning our children early in STEM education this way. So I would urge us to have a subcommittee on Indigenous studies focused on STEM education and preparation. Thank you.
We're going to go to the back, so she's been waiting right over there.
Hello, my name is Agustin Lovell. I'm a Blue Street board member in Baytown, Texas, and I teach months at Southeastern High School for about the last 20 years. And I do want to say, that you're right. I was able to, because I was teaching at SNISD and as board member in Baytown, I was able to get in one of our schools and the teachers here somewhere, Blue Street Memorial, and next year we're going to High School. So those are 2 schools, and in addition to that, Pasadena, because of the curriculum that I created in South Houston, is going to Rayford High School next year as well. But I have a couple of questions. Number one, before you call for any proclamation, the book doesn't pass, I don't know if the time was enough. Could you, instead of doing that, could you ask for an extension of time in this, so that book publishers can get ready? Because I don't know if that was enough time for book publishers to get ready, especially since the momentum instruction has also gotten Native American Studies book ready to go, Women's Studies, and African American Studies, and that came from Cynthia Dunbar's mouth. We've been, and I've been in conversation with her, and if they're planning this to rewrite ethnic history in Texas and the United States, because most states do follow as far as textbook, is there any way you can extend the time and get more information out in a more effective manner? Because putting on a website, and I think that really relies on us, is we have to get the information out.
Thank you, Steve, for that question. That's a good question.
I'm sorry, one more. I have applied for some of those committees, and I've never gotten all that. And a lot of people that have been talking, and the Houston area and across the state, apply for those committees, and how do you get on those committees?
Right, that's where we have to attack the process.
So this is definitely, that's an amazing question. I'll take your first question regarding the process. This has been an ongoing conversation on the Texas State Board of Education since my tenure. And I've been on board for 4.5 years now. We've tried to have this conversation about the proclamation process, about the length of time, even the time that it takes for board members to receive recommendations from the community to the time that we have to make a decision. The unfortunate part is that we're constantly outnumbered when it comes to the board, when it comes to that process and reviewing that process. It's incumbent upon us as state board members to continue to request that we review this process. And, it's a battle we're constantly struggling with. One of the other issues is that, in order to get an agenda item on the agenda, it's a matter of going through the board chair. I will say the board chair has been working with us the best way possible, but I think there's still a lot of work that can be done in that sense. But to address the procedural process, it's something that has to be voted on by the majority of the board, and quite frankly, we just can't get the votes most times. But it's definitely a conversation we need to continue to have. I'm sorry, your second question was? Oh, yes, in the committees. So we have to view the board members, communication with board members is key in getting on the committees, especially in the area that you represent, or in the area that you live. Board members make recommendations for those committees based on their districts. And so sometimes there's a limited amount of people who reach out, or a limited amount of board members who actually do the reaching out. And so it's unfortunate, but I think the key in getting more individuals, more experts represented on these panels is for all of us to have that more open communication. And I'll tell you right now, if you're not, if for whatever reason in your area you're not getting what you need from your board member, understand that even though we're representatives per district, you can reach out to any one of us that are supportive, and we are happy to make those recommendations for to have you listen to the board as well. That goes for anybody across the state. Reach out to Mr. Cortez, reach out to myself, anybody else who's interested. We're happy to make those recommendations.
One time for one more, that's it, real quick.
And over here.
All right, we've been having some wait over in fact.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be the last question.
Yes, good morning. My name is Patricia Nunez, and I am the president of the Austin Area Association of Bilingual Education. And I think that what people have been searching for is a place to share all of the curriculum that's being written. And we put together a conference which has many sessions already presenting on all of these topics, the Hanoi history, and curriculum having to do with indigenous practices and cultures going into STEM. So I think the group can give and disseminate information as well as professional development for educators, is to participate in those bilingual conferences for educators and become a part of ABE or TABE, the Texas Association of Bilingual Education. And also going to the national level, right? The NABE, the National Association of Bilingual Education. Getting people to present there and taking this curriculum to those areas gives immediate practice into the classroom. It's already written with the TEAC standards in mind. So I think there's plenty that is written. Now we just need a bank where to house it and where teachers and educators can access it.
Thank you. And we're already moving. We have 50 minutes left. I know you've had your hand up. Real quick, Amado, what's your comment?
How you doing? Thank you. Chris said earlier on that he's been for like 14 years actually. 12, 17 years, but I also do that at the middle school. I just want to reinforce what Chris is saying. It is very important that you have teachers in there. Because you can have all this stuff coming down from the top, and it's going to filter down. But if you don't have a teacher in there, you have the passion to teach it, it ain't going to happen. As a matter of fact, even if it doesn't come from the top, you still do it. You have the passion, you have the teacher. So we need to have the teachers in there. Thank you.
All right. Before we break for lunch right now, I just have a couple of quick comments. The facilitators
should pick up their thumb drives from Yasmin right here at the registration tables. And you should probably go before the breakout session starts to hook up the computer and the thumb drive. That's what's called the USB thumb drive. And also there's some bathrooms upstairs where the classrooms are at, so you won't have to go any further for the breakout session. And you may look on your breakout session sheet. It has the room number. There's an upper atrium that's on the second floor up here. The other 4 classrooms are over here on this side going up the stairs. And the political legislative is going to be right in here. So at 1 o'clock when we come back and come into the breakout sessions, check on your sheet, make your decision where you're going to be going, and go to your classroom. We have lunch and sodas out there, so thank you all. Big round of applause for everybody. And if you need to talk to somebody, do it over lunchtime. Remember that Iván Gonzalez said they were going to talk about the textbook issue, the people that are reviewing. I know there are a lot of questions still. Talk to them over lunch. We'll see everyone in your breakout session room. Gracias.
Right.